All right. Hey guys, thank you for joining me over here live. Appreciate you being here. Welcome to this channel. My name is Eric, and I say channel because this is going to be on YouTube, and we're going live on YouTube. We're simulcasting on a couple of different platforms, so bear with me on that. But this is on YouTube. We have a Smart Money Bro YouTube page, and where we help regular people deal with the basics of money management. And we also work with regular people who are interested in buying real estate and maybe even adding to their real estate portfolio. So on this live, I thought I would come on live we're also live in a Smart Money Bro Facebook group at the same time, as well as on LinkedIn as well. But if you guys have questions, this is really designed to hopefully be a Q&A, hopefully designed to be a Q&A to say, let me help answer some questions about rental real estate. And we know there's all different types of real estate, but we're going to focus on that residential real estate. And, we'll answer questions. And I just want to help as many people as I can help understand the process and what it takes to become a real estate investor. And you don't have to, that sounds fancy, but it's not really that fancy. It means you have one property or you have two or three. You don't have to have 10 and 20 and 30 to be a real estate investor. One or two is plenty to make you for you to be able to start a business and to have real estate for all of the positives and pros that we're going to talk about on this live. So this live is all about what are some of the pros and cons of having rental real estate, and then also what are some things you should be thinking about if you're getting into real estate. And I want to answer as many questions as possible um, that I can answer for you guys. So let's see. Whoop, let me turn that down. I got to turn that down. So that's what we're here for. And that's what we want to do. And then this will be uploaded to YouTube so that you guys can watch the replay or you can, comment, ask further questions, because I always answer questions in the comment section. So my name is Eric, and I write a blog over at smartmoneybro.com. Feel free to visit that blog site, or feel free to schedule a 15-minute free phone conversation, because I do provide those phone conversations for free. And I also do one-on-one coaching and mentoring in those areas as well. You can get all that information over at smartmoneybro.com. But on this video, we're going to talk about, or on this live stream, we're going to be talking about real estate, residential real estate, becoming a landlord. Why, what the purpose is, why you should, why you maybe shouldn't, and then what are the steps you have to take to actually do it. And I'm here for questions. Ask as many questions as you want to ask, and I am going to help you. Let me give you a little bit about my background. For 22 years, I have been involved in real estate. I've managed my own rental properties for the last 22 years. And I've had 6 properties, 7 properties. I've managed, I think, 8 properties. But to this day, I still have a few rental properties. I don't have as many as I've had before. But I've been in the game for a long time. I know what to look for, what not to look for. I know what you probably shouldn't do and what you probably need to do to make sure that you can actually be successful if you want to get into real estate, right? Now, on this broadcast, we're talking residential. We're not talking about the commercial. We're not going to really talk about the industrial, right? The warehouses and all that type of stuff. We're not going to talk about land. And, land is real speculative. So land is cool, but we're not going to talk about buying agricultural land and things like that. We're going to be talking about income producing residential real estate. And we're going to be talking about, well, let's jump into it. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into it, guys. Again, if you have any questions, drop the questions down there and I can definitely go to them and I can definitely answer them along the way as I talk about a real estate. All right. So first things first. What are some of the cons of getting into real estate, getting into residential rental real estate? Some of the problems and issues and things that you want to be looking out for. So, some of the cons is this: you're going to have to maintain the property. You're going to, whatever you decide to purchase and rent out, you're going to be responsible for the larger maintenance, right? The roof, um, the air conditioning goes out, the heating device or heating element in the property goes out. Um, there are clogged pipes or the pipes freeze over. You've got to be responsible for that. If there's any type of foundation issues, you're responsible. So that can be a con. And the reason it can be a problem or a negative is because it costs to take care of properties. It's just not free, right? You've got to take care of the property and have that property ready to rent and in good working condition. And if your margins aren't right for some reason and you don't have money to the side, you're gonna have a problem. And so that can be a con, the fact that you have to keep up with some of the larger maintenance and some of the larger repairs. And then get this: when a tenant leaves, now you have to go in there and you're responsible for the cleanup. And that tenant might leave, tons of stuff in that property: furniture, clothes, old freezers. It doesn't matter. You got to you're responsible for taking care of all that stuff. Now, of course, you can have a management company do all of this, right? So you don't have to worry about it. So that's another thing to think about as well. But you also are responsible for paying taxes on the property, for the insurance that needs to be paid and kept up to date on the property. So there's a lot of fees and things and costs that are involved that are kind of, I would say they're negatives, but they get offset by the positives. But they can be negatives. I just want to go over the cons first, because people always say, hey, I want to get into real estate investing, and they just jump into it, or they just think it's easy, or they think that it's not very difficult. I see my neighbors, they've owned a few houses for many, many years. It must be simple. Not necessarily. There's some things you got to think about. And that's kind of what I want you guys to kind of focus on here. So another con is the fact that sometimes your property is going to be vacant. So you've got to prepare for those vacancies. You've got to have some money to the side, that if you have a mortgage on that property, you got to still pay that mortgage, even though that property is vacant for a month or 2 months. So, and then of course, the biggest con to having and owning real estate that you rent out is simply tenants, right? Having tenants is a huge issue. It's probably the biggest con or the biggest negative to having real estate that you're going to rent out. Because now, if you're going to manage that property, now you got to deal directly with tenants. And anytime you're dealing with people, it's very, very difficult. Now, let's say you have you say, I want to have real estate and rental real estate, but I want to have a management company take care of the property. That's cool too, but you still have to deal with that management company who is also dealing with people. And so you can put a lot of this on a management company if you so desire, and that's cool, but you still got to be into dealing with people. And that's something to think about. A lot of people don't want to deal with houses and duplexes and triplexes and small apartments because they got to deal with people. And that's understandable, right? There's going to be some people that are going to be involved, and you got to figure out how you're going to deal with them, whether you like them or whether you don't like them. All right. So now let's talk about some of the pros, right? Some of the good of actually owning real estate, owning residential real estate. Let's see here. All right. I'm still trying to figure out all these systems, guys. So bear with me. All right. I've got a bunch of them in front of me. But okay, so here's some of the reasons you do want to get into real estate, or some of the reasons that you probably say that, you know what, this might offset all of those issues and problems and cons, right? So, one of the things to think about is the fact that if you own rental real estate, those rents are always going to be a part of money that's going to be coming into you. So, especially as you get older, right? As you get older, you will see that this is going to be steady. It could be steady income for you as you get older. You might not have a big pension. You might not have saved up money to go into a 401k at your job or into a Roth IRA or a retirement account. You may not have nothing, right? Saved up. You might be 45, 50 years old and don't have nothing. But if you buy some real estate, some rental real estate, you've got some income in your older years. And as you get older, you might want to go with a management company. That's cool. You might want to early on. But the point is you still have some money coming in every single month if you have some rental property. And that's important for some people because everybody, listen, I realize that everybody doesn't have, let me see, how do I do that? Okay. Everybody doesn't have $100,000 laying around in a retirement account. Everybody doesn't have a $500,000 laying around in an account. People just don't have that, right? But if you're able to have some rental property, now you have some steady income as you get older into your retirement years. So it could pay off in that way. That's a pro, right? That's a positive. So another positive is the fact that tax write-offs, right? You could possibly have some tax write-offs to reduce your taxable income. And when I say tax write-offs, some of those larger ones have to be spread out over the course of, over the course of years and years, 27 years, 30 years. But a lot of some of the repairs can be written off. Some of the gas money you use to be going back and forth to your rental properties, if you need to, if you have to, can be written off. There's a whole host of expenses that can be written off so you have a lower taxable income. And that's a positive. That's a pro. Let me caution you though. Make sure you have a good CPA. Make sure you have somebody that's doing, and you can do them yourself. That's cool. But make sure you understand the laws, the tax laws, right? But make sure you have a good person that's doing your taxes every year. The last thing you want is to have the IRS, to owe the IRS some money. The IRS decides to audit you for some reason and you owe them money. You don't want that, right? You can also another pro besides tax write-offs and besides retirement money is the fact that you always have a place to live. And I know that's kind of like elementary, right? But if you own rental property, if you own a house, or you own a duplex, you own an apartment, whatever if something breaks down, something goes haywire in your life, you always have some place to rest your head. It may take you a month or 2 or 3 to get somebody out of that property if you had to and you was desperate, but you still have a place to lay your head because you still have shelter, right? You still own a piece of property that you have shelter at. You also, again, you have the option, another pro, another positive thing. You have the option of saying, I want a management company to do all this management for me. I don't want to sit around and wake up at 2 in the morning for some strange reason or get a phone call because they put something down the pipes or down the toilet, right? You can have the option of having a company do it for you. Now, that company is going to charge you a fee, right? That company is going to charge you 5%, 10%, 15% of collected rents. That's going to happen, but you still have that option. You don't have to worry that I got to do all this myself every single time. Another positive of having rental real estate is that you have a diversification from your overall portfolio. So you're not all in stocks, you're not all in crypto, you're not all in bonds, you're not all in some. You have the ability to say, hey, I got a piece of real estate. So if the stock market goes haywire for a couple of years, right? Just dips and dips and dips and goes crazy. I'm still making money over here on my real estate because I'm diversified. I'm in several places at one time. right? My crypto went from $10,000 or $20,000 or $100,000 down to nothing, right? No trip. I mean, it's a trip, right? You'll be upset, but you still have your real estate because you're diversified across several different places, several different platforms. Very, very important, all right, to be diversified on many different platforms. So another positive, I'm giving you a lot of positives, right? Because this is I like residential real estate. I like having real estate. So I have a lot more positive than negative. But another positive is that it's a hedge against inflation. Having rental real estate. So having rental real estate is sort of a hedge against inflation. You guys let me know if you can hear me out there. I'm checking this audio and I want you guys to make sure if you guys can pop something up, maybe leave a comment or something so I know that you can hear me because I sort of turned my volume down and I want to make sure you guys are actually able to actually hear me. Just let me know that you can hear me and that'd be great for me. I'd appreciate it, guys. Let's see how this works. Um, okay. So hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to bank on the fact that you can hear me, but if you can't hear me, let me know. Drop me a comment somewhere and let me know. Okay, excellent. Thanks. Appreciate it. Somebody let me know. All right, cool. So when I say hedge against inflation, this is what I'm saying about real estate. Some people find this, some people don't like this, some people like it. If you own property, you love this, right? Because what this says is this: as the cost of everything goes up, so do at the same time the cost of your rents, right? So minimum wage goes up, cost of living goes up, cost of bread goes up, cost of the cost to go fill up your tank, whatever, all that stuff goes up. Well, guess what else is going up? You're a business owner. As a business owner, the prices you charge, because Walmart is not charging $1.50 for a gallon of milk no more. Walmart's charging $2.50. Walmart's charging more, right? That shirt that was at Target for $12 2 years ago, now that shirt is $14.50, or whatever. That pair of pants, whatever. Everything goes up, right? And that's just how it is where we live. So because everything goes up, so do the rents that you charge. For example, in my own property, I might have had a property that I was renting. I did have a property that I was renting for $750 5 years ago. Well, today, well, it was probably about $850 5 years ago. Today, that property rents for more like $1,150 or $1,100. It's gone up as everything else has gone up. So inflation don't bother me when it comes to my real estate because I just charge more rents, which is okay because the cost of wood costs more. The cost of to repair the sink costs more. The cost to put in new carpet costs more, not only for the carpet, but for the labor. Everybody has gone up. So guess what? I have to go up, or I can go up too, in my real estate in the rents that I charge. That's not unethical. That's not lack of integrity. That is just business. When you have a business and when you have real estate, you need to be thinking about it as a business. When you own a rental property, it is a piece of business. Some people actually go so far as to make it an LLC, make each property an LLC. You don't want to if you do that, you don't want to put all your properties in one LLC because that kind of defeats the purpose of the asset protection. I'm not going to get too heavy into that, but just to say that if you do decide to do an LLC on a piece of on your properties, do individual LLCs for each property. That way it's protected. If you have two properties, that have one LLC on both of them, then somebody could sue and they have access to both properties. But if you have them in two separate LLCs, they sue one, they can only get access to that one. So that's just another piece of something to think about if you're thinking about doing an LLC. But again, it's a business. Treat it like a business. The pair of pants goes up in price, your rents go up in price. What it takes to repair and maintain the property has gone up in price. So it's only fair because you're running a business, but it's a hedge against inflation. Big, big bonus that people don't really talk about very often, but it's actually true. Um, all right. So we talked about some of the cons. We talked about some of the pros. Now let's talk about how. What does it take to start? To actually get into and start to own, buy and own real estate, residential real estate that you plan to buy and hold for a long time, and that you plan to rent out and receive monthly payments from. So, a few things. First of all, how do you get involved in residential real estate that you want to rent out? The first thing I always recommend and suggest is that you set some goals. Figure out exactly what you want to accomplish first. And the reason I say do that first is because you could go a lot of different directions in real estate. There's a lot of things you can do in real estate: wholesale, flip properties, bird dog, partner up, get into syndications, which are large complexes. You could get into buying apartment complexes. You could, there's dozens of things you can do. You got to know what direction you're going in, because figuring out what your goal is and what direction you're going in is going to actually help make a lot of other decisions for you as we move along. Oh, somebody asked a question. Let me answer the question. Thank you for this question. Are you able to have, I'll read the question aloud. Are you able to have a separate LLC on a rental property that still has a mortgage attached to it? Excellent question. I'm going to answer that question to the best of my knowledge, right? I'm not an attorney or anything like that, but here's the answer to that question. The answer is yes. You can turn a property that you have a mortgage in that wasn't an LLC into an LLC if you want. But there's a caveat to that. There's the kicker to that. So if you want to form your own LLC with your property and maybe the property name or whatever as the LLC, whatever you want to call it, get it registered with your state and all that stuff and become an LLC. You can do that for $100 in most states to do it on your own, or you can pay an attorney to do it for $400, $500, $600, $700 to do it, because you got to file certain paperwork, right? You can do that at any time, make that property an LLC. But if you have a mortgage on that property, just know that in the fine print of most mortgages, that mortgage company could call that note due. That mortgage company can find out that now this is an LLC and there's some risk involved. They can call that mortgage due in full if you change it to an LLC and they didn't finance it as an LLC. So just keep that in mind. I want to say that it was a great question. But yes, you can do it, but there is that risk. Now, 99 times out of 100, the mortgage company doesn't do that, right? I've heard of a couple of cases, but for the most part, all the years that I've been doing real estate, I've hardly ever at all saw or read about where a company actually called the mortgage due because it moved or changed to an LLC. But I think it's possible. One thing that I would do is check your paperwork from when you bought the property and just go through it and see, or even go online to the mortgage holder, whoever the mortgage lender is of that property, and see what they say online in terms of policies and so forth about that. Because you may not want to call them, right? If you call them and ask that question, oh, I'm calling on property 123 on ABC Street, they might turn around and say, oh, that's property 12, and put that in the notes, right? That they have at the call center, put it in the notes. And next thing you know, 3 months later, you got a problem. So if you want to find out without actually calling them up and telling them it's you, go to their website and see if, and also look through your mortgage papers. I hope that answered that question thoroughly. Okay, so the other thing in terms of set, okay, let me go back to setting goals. Thanks for that question. Feel free to ask a question, and I'll jump on it as soon as you guys ask it. So you got to set goals, figure out what you want, and be very, very specific with the goals. All right. Don't just say, I want to buy property. That ain't a goal. Your goal has to always be measurable and quantifiable. If the goal is not measurable and quantifiable, then guess what? You can never figure out if you reached it. So you need to say, hey, I want to buy 2 properties by December 31st, 2023. Or you might want to say, I want to buy 1 property before July 15th of this year. whatever you say, set the goal and then figure out how you're going to get to the goal. That's the second thing you got to do. So first thing is set a goal. The second thing is you need to start researching, learning as much as you can, tuning in to stuff like this that is free, that you can ask questions from somebody like me who's been in the game for a long time. Reach out to people like me. When I say I offer free 15-minute phone conversations, take me up on that. And I do my best to deliver. Even though it's 15, 20 minutes, I do my best to give you everything I can give you based on your situation at no cost. Take advantage of the conferences, take advantage of the landlord associations, take advantage of the real estate associations in your area that you want to buy. You need to be taking full advantage, because in real estate, knowledge is power. The more information you have, the better decisions you're going to make about what to buy, how to buy, when to buy, who to buy from, et cetera, et cetera. So the more knowledge you can take is very, very important. So you've set your goals. You figured them out, put them on paper where you can see them, whatever. Your real estate goals, your rental real estate goals, specifically about real estate. You've done some research, joined some groups, some organizations. You starting to understand the lingo and the terms, and you also maybe come in contact with the landlord tenant laws in your state or in your area, because you got to know what the laws are, right? Half the battle of knowing what to do in terms of tenants, and we'll talk about that later, but half the battle is knowing what you can and cannot do. There's a lot of tenants that know the system better than landlords know the system, better than management companies know the system, and then they know how to work it. But you got to be one step ahead as a business owner, as an owner of a piece of property that you're renting out. You got to be one step ahead to say, I'm going to know the laws. And I'm also going to know the laws that's coming down the pike. What's happening that's coming through and going to be affecting our city? What state laws are going to be affecting the landlords I'm a landlord and I have a management company managing the property, but I still want to stay up to date and know what's going on. So that's part of your research as you start to jump into being a property owner that's going to rent their property out. The third thing you got to do or think about, let me just jump back real quick. Okay, appreciate it, guys. Thank you. All right, the third thing you got to think about is being a property owner or a landlord right for you? There's a good chance that it may not be something that you have the temperament for. And you may say, well, I could always buy a piece of property and have a management company manage it. That's cool. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I'll get to something important I want to say about that in a bit. But you want to know, is this something that you want to deal with over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Here's what I suggest, and let me just jump into that now. Whether or not being a landlord is right for you is understandable, right? Because everybody doesn't have the temperament to deal with tenants. So you got to figure out at some point, do you want to have a management company manage your rental properties? My suggestion to every single person I talk to about this over the last 20 years, my suggestion is the very first year or two that you manage your own properties yourself. And several reasons I say that. One very important reason I say it, the most important reason, is it helps you understand what things cost. And so you won't be taken advantage of by a contractor or by a plumber or by an HVAC company. You won't be taken advantage of if you understand what things cost. What do windows cost, and what is the labor for windows cost, right? What is the door cost, and what is the labor to put in the door? So you want to know these type of things. What is the labor on carpet, and what are the prices for carpet right now? What is the labor for putting down wood floor, and what do the cost of the actual floor? So some of these things you don't ever touch or know if you have a management company doing all of this for you, and you just got 10 grand sitting in the bank and you're dishing out money all the time, right? You don't know if the management company is putting in a cushion for themselves, as well as finding a good price on. So here's my point. You want to understand what things cost. You want to know if you're being overcharged. You want to understand the business before you hand off pieces of the business to other people to manage it for you. So you wouldn't start any other company and then immediately as soon as you start it hand it off to somebody else to do it. Most people don't grow businesses that way, right? Sure, they at some point they're going to farm some things out when it makes good monetary sense to do, good business sense, right? But in the beginning, you got to put the work in. You got to hump and pump and do what you got to do to put the work in and you're not just putting the work in to put it in, you're learning in the process. So the work that you put in for that year or two of managing your own property or properties is the learning process that's going to help you down the road. I mean, the reason the company that's been in business for 15 years and they make millions and millions, the reason they can make those millions and millions because they know how to manage costs because they didn't farm a lot of the stuff out in the first month that they started the business. So again, if you're thinking about this as a business, then you need to know the business a little bit before you have somebody else doing most of the work in the business. It's going to help. Trust me, going to help your bottom line down the road if the first year or two you actually do it all yourself. I'm not saying do all the work yourself. I'm not telling you got to learn how to lay carpet day one. I'm just telling you got to know what laying carpet costs. That's important because just like any other business, you got to manage your costs, manage your expenses when you're dealing with real estate. Because you're going to be collecting thousands and thousands of dollars a month over the course of a year. But if you got to send out, if you collect $12,000 in a year, and then you got to send out $10,000 because you wasn't sure what something cost, but you let them do it anyway. You're not managing costs properly like a business should. So that's a third thing you got to think about, whether or not you're going to manage the property or have somebody manage it. Let me check something real quick. Okay, again, guys, drop some questions. I'm here to answer. I don't mind answering anything you have. Let's rap about it. Q&A. Fourth thing you got to think about, your credit, right? Because most of us probably don't have $100,000 laying around to go buy a piece of rental property right now, or $50,000. You might have $30,000 or $40,000 that can find a great deal somewhere if you find a motivated seller or you find something on the auction at an auction or courthouse steps for back taxes or something like that, or dealing with a land bank. There's ways you can find really cheap properties that you might have cash to buy, and that's cool too. But if you don't have that cash, you have to start thinking about credit. How is your credit? What is your credit score? Because again, I'm not against credit. Now, if you look at some of the other things I talk about, I'm not a big credit guy. I don't have credit cards. But when you're buying a piece of appreciating real estate that's going up in value, I don't have a big problem with getting some credit to buy that because I think that's okay because it's property that is going up in value. But you've got to look at your credit and figure out, hey, how does my credit look? Is my credit okay? And there's all different types of programs that help people with not so great credit, or they might help you get the property as well as get a loan to repair the property. There's all different types of programs and different types of loan products that are out there. And that's something you need to figure out pretty close to upfront when you're first deciding whether or not you want to actually get into real estate on the buy and hold strategy or not. All right. I've been talking a lot. All right, get my face together. All right. Now, a couple other things. And I'm looking at comments and things like that here, guys. So bear with me. All right. So a couple other things. Down payment. You got to figure out, are you going to put 20% down? Do you have only 10%? Do you have 25% you want to put down? 20% avoids PMI, obviously. But you got to figure out your money situation, right? Two drinks. You've got to figure out your money situation. Now, not only your money that you're going to put down on the property, but you got to figure out how much money you're going to keep to the side in case something goes wrong. One of the biggest problems I've seen with a lot of people in real estate over the years is they buy a piece of property to rent out and their margins are razor thin, meaning they pay a mortgage on the property. They pay $700 a month, $800 a month, and they're renting it out for $1,000 a month. If you pay $800 and you rent it for $1,000, you're only making $2,400 a year. If you take in consideration 1 month vacancy each year, which I suggest you do, you're only making $2,200 in a year. $2,200 a year can be eaten up with one major repair on the property, and you're done. You made nothing that year, or you might end up having to dig in your own property, in your own pocket to come out. You might have a $3,000 repair, and you only made $2,200 a year on this property. Now you're in the negative. So it's very important to have a cushion of money set to the side just in case. Just like you have a cushion of money set to the side at home when the washer and dryer goes out or when the tires need repair, you have money to the side in case something goes wrong. Same thing applies in this business. You have to have some money set to the side in case and when something goes wrong. If you have a $200 margin you're making on, your mortgage is $800, your rent is $1,000, you're making $200 a month over the course of 11 months, $2,200. When that person moves out in month 11, you're going to have to spend a couple $1,000s to get the property ready to go, more than likely. Keep that in mind. You want to have as bigger margins as you can. If you're renting the property for $1,000, and I'm just using that as an example for round numbers. If you're renting the property for $1,000, you probably don't want to have a mortgage that's $800, $850. And when I say mortgage, I mean overall mortgage with taxes and insurance escrowed in. You'd rather have a mortgage around $500. You want the cushion as big as possible, because the cushion is not just profit, because 7 times out of 10, you're probably going to be putting a lot of that money back into the property. Okay. So yeah, you might make $2,200 a year, but you got to spend $2,000 just to get it ready in month 11 for the next tenant. But if you had $4,000 that you made, and then you had to put $2,000, it leaves you a little bit of cushion. But you don't want to have to make that cushion. You want to come into real estate, come into a deal already with 10 grand to the side in case something goes wrong. Already with 4,000 to the side in case something goes wrong. I always recommend every single property you have at least $5,000 setting to the side per property. So that's something to think about. You got to have your money together before you buy a property, before you even start looking at a property. Have your cash together, not just your down payment, but again, also money to the side to maintain the property when things go wrong or when you have to clean it up for the next tenant. All right. So another thing you got to think about is knowing the area. Well, let's say location, right? It's kind of played out cliche, but it's true. The more you know about a location, the better informed you are. And what did I say about information? Information is king, right? The more information you know, the better. So location. Know the location you're going to purchase the property in. If you're in Birmingham, Alabama, and there's a certain area where you're going to be looking for rental property in the city, know that area really well, right? Know what new strip mall is being torn down, old strip mall is being torn down. Know what apartment complex is being built a mile away. Know the city, know the area, know the location as well as possible, because it's going to help you make a more informed decision about whether you should or shouldn't buy, what you can rent the property for or what you can't rent the property for, how much you should spend on that property, how much you shouldn't spend on the property. The more you know, the more informed, the more you know about the location, the more informed decision you can make about the property itself. And you have to do some of these calculations before you even buy a property. If you see a really nice property, you're in Scottsdale, Arizona area, and you see a really nice piece of property 20 miles outside north of the city, and and you need to figure out whether or not you want to buy it or not as a rental property, then you got to run some numbers. You got to know, what do properties in that area rent for? You got to know, okay, if they rent for $1,500 a month, and or let's say they rent for mostly around that with the same amenities, $1,400 a month, or $1,500 a month. Okay, if I'm going to get $1,500 a month for 11 months out of the year, then okay, that means total I'm going to be receiving this. Now the property is being sold for $200,000, and the mortgage on that property is going to be right around, $1,500 also per month. Maybe it's not going to be a good property for me because the numbers don't match up. You need to know your numbers. And the way you know your numbers is by understanding the location, understanding what's coming, what's going, what rents go for in that area, what properties sell for in that area that are similar to mine, etc. That brings me to another point. You may consider whether or not you want to have a realtor or whether or not you don't want to have a realtor, right? A lot of times when you're buying rental property and you have a real estate agent, they may be able to get you some deals here and there because they have some insights, some things that come on MLS before it gets to the public, etc. But if you're trying to get into real estate property, you're trying to buy properties under 70% of market value, 50% of market value, then probably you may not want to go to an agent. You may want to do some bird dogging or get with some investors or understand, get in the real estate association in your area and start learning about some of these deals that don't come up, that people don't see. And motivated sellers may be something that you need to go out and find on your own. Something to think about as well. All of these things are things you need to be considering if you want to get into real estate. All right, somebody asked a question. I'll answer it. Thank you for the question. Brand new real estate agent, and I have taken on this new venture with the hopes of obtaining a fourplex. Congratulations on being a real estate agent. I know it took some time to pass the test and do all that, so big congratulations out to you. And you want to obtain a fourplex for yourself. Smart, super smart. As a rental unit, would you recommend starting with a single unit property or a multi-unit property? Here's my recommendation. When you say multi-unit, I would not recommend your very first property be an apartment complex where you have to deal with 6 buildings, 24 units. That's really high intensity in terms of labor. So I wouldn't recommend that as your first. Now, don't get me wrong. There's people that have done that as their first and been just fine. But a little lower risk might be a fourplex, like you said, or maybe a duplex. 2 to 3 or 4 units to start with. If you want to be in that multi-family space, it's perfect. But I wouldn't recommend this your first thing. The first time you jump into a 16 unit, 2 buildings, 16 units. Now you can, and that's cool. I don't have no problem with that because investing is investing. But I still recommend, if you want to kind of dip a foot in there before you jump in with both feet, a fourplex is perfect. You don't even have to live on one corner of it. You can just buy you a fourplex, and then having a fourplex for 1 or 2 years, you're going to learn so much about the business. You're going to learn how to deal with tenants. You're going to learn how to deal with what you need from a management company. You're going to learn what it costs to have trash or have trash removed. You're going to learn what it costs to put in sinks, to replace appliances. There's so much you're going to learn by having that fourplex. That would be a yes. I would do it. Absolutely. A multi-unit is okay. Nothing wrong with that. Now, a bunch of units to start off with, I probably wouldn't recommend, 16 units, 32 units, 64 units. Once you have that first fourplex though, which I'm okay with, a single family or a duplex or a fourplex, I'm cool with those because they're fairly low maintenance when you got one. Then once you do that for a year or two, then the sky's the limit. You got the experience under your belt. Go get you a 64 unit piece of property, get you a management company, you're in the game. But to start off, yes, take your time, go slow, understand for a year or two. That's an excellent way to get involved with real estate. Another question was, with inflationary prices, is this a good time? This is what I say. It's never a horrible time to get into buy and hold real estate because of the hold, right? The buy, sure, things are a little high right now. Things are high right now. Things are very high right now in terms of real estate. So two things. First thing is there's always some deals out there, right? You just got to look a little harder right now. The deals ain't going to slap you in the face right now, right? Because investors are all over the place. Right now, everything is like boom, boom, boom. It's going fast. The inventory is real low, but you have to look a little harder. And because you're buying it, but you're going to hold it, you should be okay in the long run. You should be okay to hold. There's nothing wrong with that. So yes, is it a good time to buy? I think it's an okay time to buy and hold real estate. But just make sure you're holding it, right? Because that $200,000 home that you want to buy and rent out, it may be in 2 or 3 years, it may be only worth 205, 210. It's not going to keep going up the way it's going up forever. We know that. It's not going to be 275 in the next 2 years. It's going to be 205, 210. That's in the next few years, excuse me. But here's the deal. In 10 years, that 200 is going to be 250. In 20 years, that 200 is going to be 325. So yes, because you're holding it, it's cool right now to buy and hold. Little tougher for those out there that are trying to wholesale properties or those that are trying to flip properties. It's tough because now you buy that $100,000 property, it's hard to find a property cheap enough to flip or think. That's just something to think about. But right now it's okay time because of prices, because over the long hold, prices will go up. It's just going to take a while now because they went up so fast, so quick right now. So excellent question. Thank you so much for the question. I really appreciate that. If you have questions, please drop it and we can talk about it and have that conversation about it. 22 years I've been in this thing, real estate. Got started back in 1999, 2000. I didn't even tell my story up front, but just for those of you that don't know my story, and a lot of you probably don't, I started the game of real estate with nothing. I started the game of real estate coming from a place where I lived in probably 18 different places by the time I was 30 years old. Had no permanent, well, I never lived in a home owned by anybody I knew at all, ever, until I was 30 years old. And I got 2 properties at the age of 30. But I come from a place where I lived in apartment after apartment after apartment after apartment growing up. And so the idea, just to have the idea that I want to buy real estate in my late 20s and 29 years old was totally out of the box for somebody that came from the poor situation and poor conditions that I grew up in. So I came from nothing to have where I'm at in terms of real estate, but I had to learn it all over the course of a lot of years. But right now, I'm trying to drop that information for some of you that are new to this game. But anyway, so let me jump back to some of the things you need. Thank you for the questions. Keep them coming. I'll answer. And okay, so you got to know the area. Go to the city's website and see what's coming up. Look at their planning and zoning. Check all the laws, and just the more information you can get about an area you want to buy property, the better. Again, know your margins, and then know, do you want to buy a turnkey property that's ready to go, or do you want to buy a little bit of fixer upper? It makes a difference, right? Do you want to buy that property that has weeds and stuff all in front of it that looks like it's kind of raggedy and been abandoned for 2 or 3 years? Those can be some of the absolute best deals ever. Just a little bit of TLC, a little bit of cosmetic, get the carpet together, but just check the bones of the house. The foundation looks good. Maybe the roof is raggedy, no big deal. That could be you can fix a roof. But that's the type of property that is excellent to invest in, because you need to be you're seeing what other people can't see. And when you're able to see what other people can't see, you get a lot of profit that way, ultimately. So, or do you want to buy a property that already has a tenant in there? That's just simply you buy the property, the tenant's already there, been a good tenant for a while. These are things you have to consider. And then, of course, you got to consider how you're going to search for properties. Again, you can use an agent, or you can do some bird dogging on your own, driving neighborhoods and seeing and going and looking up addresses in county courthouses to see who owns what. And then you could always be sending out mailers, postcards. Hey, I'm interested in this property. I get postcards at least once a week, probably 3 or 4 times a month, maybe sometimes 5, 6 times a month, especially in the summertime. I get a lot of people sending me information to buy property from me. Maybe that could be you because you're out bird dogging and trying to find properties. But you got to be out there looking unless you want to use an agent. And again, typically with agents, you're going to be finding properties much closer to market value when you deal with agents and you have them helping you. So keep that in mind. Another person, somebody jump in with a question. Appreciate the question, guys. Particularly interested. Here's the question. Interested in duplex or fourplex? Where would I find this? Should I seek assistance from a realtor? Excellent question. Your choice. Totally your choice. There's a couple of websites you can go on to check out some properties and things like that. But here's one thing I would suggest to you. In the area that you want to buy a property, a duplex, a fourplex, please go get to know other investors and longtime landlords and property management companies in that area. Sometimes those people can lead you to people who have properties for sale at discounted prices. You have to begin to build your network with the people that are around you that are doing what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. Get to know, join the association, join the landlords association. Yes, you're going to go to a landlord association meeting and it's going to be boring and there's going to be people, but you're trying to learn and you're trying to network and you're trying to associate yourself with people who are doing what you want to do. So to answer the question, you will find that information through other people. But yes, it's nothing wrong with having an agent that you're working with also. But you need to let your agent know up front, hey, I'm looking for these types of properties, and here's about where I want them to be located, and here's about the price that I'm willing to pay. I'm looking for a deal. Agent, I'm looking for a deal. Help me find a good deal to help me have this type of margins on the property. Now, when you come up front with an agent with that speech, that agent already knows to be looking for certain deals. They're not going to just shoot you all types of things, but that agent might have their ear to the ground and they might know of an investor. They might know of somebody that is selling something. You can use an agent. But don't discount the ability to do your own research and find some of these deals on your own. They're out there. You just got to be searching. So yes, it's okay to use an agent, get assistance from a realtor, but also be willing to do some of that grind work yourself, because a lot of the best deals are not going to be the deals that the agent's going to find. It's going to be the deal that you hear about, or the deal that you driving down that street and you see that property and it's old and abandoned and looks rough. That's the deal you need to go research online to see if the taxes are paid on it. And then once you see if the taxes are paid, now you can go and say, oh, so-and-so owns this. Oh, it's a management company out of California. Oh, maybe they might be willing to sell. Let me send them a postcard. Let me call them. That's work you got to do. So it's up to you. Another person said, is a hard money loan or a traditional loan a better option for a new investor? Now, there's all different types of loan products, right? I'm not going to dig into the specifics on the different types of loan products, but I can imagine that hard money lenders are out there, or that traditional loans are out there. There's different ways to go, different routes to go, because there's different lenders that offer different programs and different packages for first-time investors, etc. And so since there's so many of those, I don't want to really give any blanket statements about those, and they're out there that will allow you to pay less than 20% for a down payment. And sometimes there's different types of loans that can be wrapped around this and wrapped around that. And the cost of fix up can be put into the loan. Tons of different loan packages. One thing I would say is that if you're doing this on your own and you don't have an agent or anybody to work with, perhaps you need to start also researching the different types of loans that are available to you based on your situation and in your area. And you can do that through several ways. You can contact lenders or banks, etc., and they will have separate types of packages or types of, they like to call them products, that they will offer for investors. I tell you, let me give you this quick story. One thing I did, this is back in 2000. Back in 2000, I put together a package. Like, people don't do this anymore, right? But I put together a whole package of and a plan of what I wanted to do on a piece of property. And I walked it into 4 or 5 different banks, bunch of banks. One of them took me up on it. The other ones turned me down and said no. One of them took me up on it, and they were able to do a refi loan for me because I was trying to get a refi loan. But that's just a quick story. I could dig deep into that story, but just to say that you're going to go figure out which place has what type of product to figure out which one suits you and which one's best for you. Another question. Oh, this way. Okay, so a couple of things more. There's a few more things I want to hit on about what you have to do in terms of buying your first property, right? And keep asking questions. I'll keep checking and going for them. You're going to set your goals. You're going to do your research. You're going to figure out whether or not being a landlord or a property owner is for you. I'm kind of recapping. You're going to check on your credit. You're going to make sure you have your down payment and your money right. You can also check on the location of where you want to buy. You're going to research that location thoroughly. Then you're going to go to the city's website and see if there's anything coming in that particular area or anything leaving in that area. Is that a old asbestos building that, has some problems going on across the street? What's the crime rate in the area where you're looking to buy? You want to know all that stuff. Information's king. You're going to know your margins, right? Figure out what can I rent that property for and how much is it going to cost me in total out-of-pocket TOP. And then you're also going to figure out, do you want a turnkey property or do you want a fixer-upper? You're going to figure out, do you want to go through an agent or do you want to have an agent and do some research on your own and do some bird dogging and looking for properties on your own? And you're going to figure out this. This is the big thing, okay? I know a lot of people who get into real estate or want to get into real estate, and they just study and they read and they learn and they sit and they keep talking about, yeah, I'm gonna get into real estate. Yeah, I'm gonna get into real estate. And then like 10, 15 years later, they still ain't bought no property. The big thing is this: pull the trigger, right? Go ahead and get involved in the real estate. The way you're going to learn about real estate the most is by buying a piece of property and actually getting into real estate. Yes, you want to read and you want to take in all the knowledge and get to know all the people and network and all that, but you ain't really going to learn until you actually do it, right? You can talk about riding a bike all day long. It looks good. Oh, that's nice. I like the way they ride that bike, man. But you don't learn how to ride a bike by sitting in the window watching everybody else ride bikes. You got to ride the bike. So I'm telling you, don't be the person that studies and spend years and years and years studying. Go ahead and make the purchase. Go ahead and do it. Jump out there. Now, you got to take that leap because you don't want to be that person that just studies and studies and studies and studies. Go ahead and buy your first property because that's how you're going to learn the most about properties. Is go ahead and pulling the trigger on it. Now, once you locate a property, ran the numbers look good, you got your credit right, you're ready to rock and roll. Now you got to start to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to the property to get it ready to rent? Now, once you figure that out, then you have to go through the process of screening tenants. Now, this is if you're doing it yourself and you don't have a management company year 1, year 2. Screening tenants. The absolute most important thing I have ever done as a landlord or as a property owner, the absolute most important thing I have ever done and that you will ever do is screen tenants. Nothing else matters if you get the wrong tenant in your property. Okay. Bombshell. You cannot get the wrong tenant in your property. You must know how to screen tenants. And if you're looking to get a management company to do this for you, you need to ask that management company up front, how do you guys screen tenants? Now, when you're interviewing your 3 or 4 management companies to actually manage your properties, if that's what you do, then that needs to be a number 1 question. How do you guys go about screening tenants? Because if you have a bad tenant, and what is a bad tenant? A bad tenant is this: somebody that either doesn't pay the rent on time or they don't take good care of the property. Now, if they do either one of those two things bad, that makes it a bad tenant, because not paying on time is obviously a problem, right? Most people who rent properties, they have to pay a mortgage too. So you want to be paid on time in terms of rent. But you also don't want somebody tearing the property up. If somebody tears the property up or they don't pay on time, that makes them a bad tenant. And your number one goal as a property owner is to avoid having the bad tenant. Now, that makes screening tenants your absolute number one thing you have to learn to do. That's a whole process. I could do a whole video on screening tenants, and I probably will, because it's very important. So then after you screen tenants, you get the list of tenants, you go through them, you choose a tenant. You got to then decide if you want to, and this is kind of maybe before, but you got to figure out, do you want to actually do Section 8 or do you not want to do Section 8? Do you want to go with market prices or not? And then you have to create a lease. You have to figure out, okay, what goes in the lease? What are some very important things? What are the laws that my state says has to be in every lease? That's, again, you got to know that information. So there's a lot to it. Here's what I want to say. There's a lot that goes into buying your first rental property. It's not just as simple as, oh, find a property, buy it, boom, we're on. Now we're good. No, it's not that simple. It takes a lot more work. And you have to be willing to do that work to get to that point where it's smooth sailing for you. But it takes some time. It takes a while. How you decide to fix up your properties and how you decide to find tenants and how you decide, all these things are decisions you get to make because it's your business. So there's a lot to it. Let me see if there's anything else. You guys got any more questions? I'm open. The floor is open for more questions. And I appreciate you guys that are joining me here. And if you're watching this on replay, I dropped a lot of information here. If you're watching this on replay and you have a question, drop a comment, because I definitely want to hear it. But if you guys have any more questions, feel free. You know, what I wanted to do today on this live stream is answer a few questions, but I also want to kind of introduce this whole thing to you guys, because for some people, it's very, very difficult to get the right information from somebody that's not trying to sell them anything. With me, I'm not trying to sell you anything. The only thing I ask you to do is become a subscriber on YouTube, check out some videos on YouTube, and if you want to have a free conversation, do that. If you want to, I do have services that are one-on-one where I coach and mentor one-on-one, and I do charge for that. But if you just want information, that's all I'm giving you is good, strong, free information. So yeah, somebody said screening tenants would be a great live stream. Yes. So important. Absolute most important thing you do. And perhaps maybe in the next week or two, I'll do a live stream about ways to screen tenants, things to look for and things to look out for, because there's a lot of people out there that are, there's a lot of shisty stuff going on as well. So I may think about doing that one for sure. But so yeah, anything else that you guys have, please ask the questions. I don't mind answering them. But like I said, I do one-on-one coaching, but it's difficult for people to actually find information where somebody's not trying to sell them a course or sell them something. And with my live stream here on YouTube or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, I'm just here to help people, right? I don't make a living full time by offering coaching services, right? Although I do have them. If you want them, I don't make a living from that. I'm just trying to help folks out. It's because I see there's so many people that just don't know. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They don't know if they shouldn't. You know, nowadays you can get a lot of information off YouTube, but a lot of times people have specific questions about their specific situation, and the YouTube broadcast doesn't really answer my specific situation. That's where I come in. You ask the question about your situation, I answer it, or you pick up the phone and we have a 15-minute phone conversation. So you'll see me around on Twitter as Smart Money Bro, on Instagram. I just started an Instagram page as Smart Money Bro. on YouTube as Smart Money Bro. On Facebook, I have a private Facebook group where we talk about money and real estate. Smart Money Bro group, maximize your money in your real estate. And then you also see me on my website, smartmoneybro.com. So if there's no other questions, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. And I apologize about looking down, but I'm trying to take care of these screens, guys. But I want once a week, I'm going to be doing a live stream. The live stream may be about real estate. It may be about something more deeper in depth in real estate. And it may be about managing money, because the other component of what I like to talk about is helping people understand money management, the power of money management. And so that's something else I talk about. And perhaps I will do some live streams on that too, and as well. But just be looking for that, guys. So I always like to say this at the end of every broadcast, everything I do. I always say this because it's very important that people realize that, planning for your future self, your future money, your future whatever is very, very important. You don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, right? You can't change what may happen. But if you develop the right habits right now with your money, just in general with habits, then it's going to dictate some of the pieces of where you will be down the road. So the best person to take care of the old you is the young you that has the energy, the young you that has the time on their side, the young you that has the thirst of knowledge, the young you who's not totally set in their ways. The young you is the best person to take care of the old you. Okay. So with that said, guys, take care of yourself and take care of other people. Feel free to comment on this video. I'm going to answer all comments, all questions. Until the next time, until the next video, peace out.